Okay, so today's topic today's topic is a good one. I keep talking to parents who keep saying that their child is denied health services, health insurance, and this is a big deal. Not just because of what's happening in our country right now with the government, but it's a big deal. So, for those of you who do not have a special needs child, whenever our child has a diagnosis and they are diagnosed with a disability, the government will put them on Medicaid. Medicaid has programs, health coverage, and insurance for children with special needs. So whenever you look at TV or you see children with spina bifida or cancer or some kind of child diagnosis, child illness, they are typically automatically qualified for pediatric or childhood Medicaid services. There is a certain section of Medicaid that is specifically for children who have disabilities, okay? But what I keep seeing is that parents are like, my kid has been denied. And I'm looking like, what? What is happening? Like over and over again. I'm in these groups and people are like, what do I do? Like, and I'm blown away because let me just tell you, Hassan is 25 and he's had Medicaid. You know what I mean? And people in the groups are like, well, it depends. They denied us because of our income. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. If your kid is disabled, you should. And I did some research of my own, and sure enough, they have, let me just read you this. And I got this from the Autism Speaks website. Under the Early and Periodic Screening, Diagnostic and Treatment (EPSDT) benefit of Medicaid, beneficiaries under the age of 21 are entitled to all healthcare services that are found to be medically necessary to treat conditions discovered in a child. And it goes on to say that since 2014, at least since 2014 and before that, that all 50 states were working to make sure their Medicaid services included children under age 21, that they had services under the Medicaid umbrella to help children who had, disabilities, children who had disabilities, that they would find health coverage through Medicaid. So I don't understand what's happening with, you know what I mean? I have a theory, and I'll talk to you about that theory and what to do about it in a minute. But let me tell you why it's so important. So it's easy to just say, well, why do you even need Medicaid? Like, well, I mean, if your family has insurance, why don't you just go to the doctor, take your kids to the doctor? If the doctor is able to prescribe whatever your child needs, why won't the family's insurance just cover it? It does not. Your regular HMO from your job, or if you purchase health insurance, it does not cover autism services. So let me tell you what Medicaid services for children with autism covers, okay? So like, for instance, let me just say, before I read this list, Hassan, whenever he was in grade school, he went to what they called a partial hospitalization program. It was a special needs school for children with special needs, specifically autism, Down syndrome. There were a number of different kinds of special needs that they treated at this school, and it was a partial hospitalization program. Why? Because they had different kinds of specialists who treated children at this school. Who was there? Behavioral services, different types of special education programs and treatments, case management, speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, applied behavioral analysis, the ABA therapy that I talked about before, psychological services and psychiatrists, transportation accommodations, early intervention. So, like Hassan didn't catch a regular school bus, they had special needs buses that had a special needs aide on the school bus. Early intervention services specifically for kids with special needs, in-home services, family support services, and more. Medicaid health care services cover this for kids with special needs. Your health insurance doesn't cover that, okay? And it covers it, and it covers most of it. So, I mean, Hassan went to this partial hospitalization. They call it partial because he wasn't inpatient. So he was able to go home, live at home, and come to this facility and have full access to these doctors, these therapists, and have occupational therapy, physical therapy, all that. You know what I mean? They would send an aide to the house if I needed to. They would help me. They could help Hassan. They would sit with him if I had to go to the groceries. Like, they provided whole wraparound home services, school services, all kind. If Hassan had an after school program at our church, the aide would go with him. Like, they provided all these services, and Medicaid covers this. But Hassan always had Medicaid. As soon as he was diagnosed, he had it. You know what I mean? So these parents need these services for their children, especially the ones that have the parents who have children with severe autism. You know what I mean? They need these services. So I think I figured out what the problem. I have a theory. I think I figured out what the problem is. And so for those parents, these families who either are denied or had it and then they dropped them, I have a theory of what I think is happening. I think what's happening is that because autism is more, for lack of a better term, more popular now. 20 years ago, when Hassan was diagnosed, Hassan is 25, he was diagnosed at age 5. 20 years ago, autism wasn't as popular. So in order for him to be diagnosed, I had to take him to a specialist. But because it's so popular now, parents can look at their child and pretty much identify what the symptoms are. People pretty much know what to look for. They can go online, they can look at books. And we're more familiar with, we as a society, we're more familiar with autism symptoms now. And so what'll happen is parents will look at some traits in their children or in their child and go, this, I'm concerned about how Bobby's behavior is. Let me take him to his pediatrician. And so they'll make an appointment with their own pediatrician. They'll take their child, and the pediatrician might do some tests, some tests in 10 or 15 minutes and then say, yeah, you know what? Your child has autism. And so they'll write it in their chart, and then the parent will say, oh, I have a diagnosis. And then they'll take that diagnosis to the school district, okay? And then they'll take that diagnosis to Medicaid, and then they'll attempt to apply, and then they're denied. And then they're like, well, my daughter has autism. Why am I denied? That's the problem. Okay. So when Hassan was diagnosed, I did the same thing. I took him to his pediatrician. And let me just tell you this. His pediatrician was like, no, he's not. I was like, I think he's autistic. No, he's not. I had a whole big old stack of research. I was like, ask him a WH question. He does this, do this. She didn't even examine him. But when I proved it to her, then she referred him to a specialist. And I think what's happening is people are taking them to their pediatricians and they're not referring them. Okay? So, parents, I want you to make sure you get an official diagnosis from a developmental pediatrician for your young child or a child psychologist. It can't just be from your regular pediatrician, okay? I'll tell you why in a second. Hear me out. So even if you get your diagnosis for your child from a child psychologist or a developmental pediatrician, okay? Make sure it's not just a document, a piece of paper that says this child, because this is what I'm seeing. In these groups, people are posting their child's diagnosis and it's on one sheet of paper and it's in a 2 or 3 sentence paragraph that says, yes, this child has this level of autism, this is documented, here's my signature, here's my medical license, and here's the name of the group, the medical group that, is backing this medical diagnosis. And so parents are like, here's my paper. It says that my child has autism, so this is what I can use to go and get Medicaid. No. And I believe, this is my theory, I believe this is why you are being denied. It's not explaining your child's limitations and what their needs are. Just because your child has autism does not mean they have special needs. Special needs. It doesn't mean anything. There are people who have autism who are operating just fine in the world. There are people who are on the spectrum who have jobs, who have, houses, they live their lives, they're driving their cars, they're living their lives. You need an explanation from the specialist that helps Medicaid, helps the government understand where your child is on this spectrum and helps them understand why your child needs support. When Hassan was diagnosed, they gave us a 5-page document. I still have it. I still have it from whenever he was age 5. Then when your child turns 18 and they become a legal adult, Medicaid, Social Security wants to verify that as an adult, that diagnosis still stands, and they will do their own diagnosis all over again. Because that diagnosis from when your child was a baby or a young toddler, I guess the health system or the symptoms may have adjusted over the years. So they do a whole nother assessment when they turn 18. And when they're done with their assessment at 18, again, it should be a 3 to 8 page document. It shouldn't be one sheet of paper that says, oh yeah, he has it still. Okay? So this is what I want you to look for. You need an explanation from your child's specialist that explains why your child needs to be placed in an educational institution that provides a least restrictive environment for your child. That physician needs to list the supports and the services your child needs and why. That's not one page. There's a reason why that doctor said that your child has autism. That doctor likely spent over an hour with your kid and took a lot of office notes. Social Security doesn't need the doctor's office notes, but they need an explanation of what your child's limitations are and what their needs are and what supports they need. What supports? This child needs occupational therapy because this child needs speech. They have a speech delay. They need speech therapy. They need psychological services because they can't go to a normal school. They need special services because they have special needs. Does that make sense? Now Social Security is like, oh, okay, this child they need help. They need a special kind of health insurance. This is not about your income. Parents are saying things like, they didn't approve us because we have two cars. They didn't approve us because we got our taxes back. I'm like, that has nothing to do with what your child's health needs are. Can you tell I'm upset about it? Because this shouldn't happen. Okay. So once you take your child to the specialist and you get this 3 to 8 to 10 page document about your child, now you're equipped with what you need to get approved for Medicaid. It's my theory. Because like I said, it shouldn't happen. My understanding is that Medicaid doesn't have enough evidence or enough information to make the approval. And nobody's telling you what they need. You go online, you apply, you say my kid has autism. They don't know anything other than that just that your kid has a diagnosis, and then they look at your income and then they deny you. And you're like, "Oh my goodness, I'm denied, but my kid needs this, that, and the other," but they don't know what your kid needs. You see what I'm saying? You need your kid to be approved. Side note. I used to be a disability case manager at Cigna Group Insurance. My job was to approve claims based on disability. That was my job. So it kind of makes sense. That's why I'm saying this. It kind of makes sense that they're denying you because they don't have a reason to approve you. Does that make sense? Because I know that if I was at Cigna and you sent in a claim talking about, yeah, my kid has autism and I didn't understand why they needed the services, I'd deny you too. Okay, I'm sorry. That was a side note. All right, so you take your kid to the specialist, you have your documentation, it lists why you need the support, why you need the services, why your child needs to be placed in the least restrictive environment. This is what I want you to do. I want you to apply in person. Don't apply online. Why? You apply online, it's just another application. The system, the computer will deny you before a person will. Hear me out. It's more convenient, Teray. I don't want to go. I don't want to sit there for hours. Let me tell you what sitting there for hours will do. You go there, you go with your child. You make an appointment. Go there with your child. You take all your documentation. You take all your paperwork from the doctor. You take your child's Social Security card. You take your own Social Security card. You take your child's birth certificate. You take your ID. You make sure you have a utility bill. You take whatever, all the things, okay? You go there, you sign in, you sit there. The person comes and sees you. You sit at their desk. You do your application. You sit there and they take your application face to face. That person in front of you sees you as a human being, and they will do what they can to get you approved. If they punch it in the computer and the computer says whatever, they'll say, "Oh no, yeah, you have all your documentation. Let me go talk to my supervisor. I'll be right back." Ask me how I know. Listen, I'm telling you the secrets. If they don't know, if the computer's doing something funny, "Hey, Stacy, could you come look at this for a second, please?" Go there in person. People will help. Then they'll sit there and they'll find other stuff that you didn't even go there in person. Take your stuff with you. Take your baby with you. I know the baby's gonna be upset. They don't want to. Nobody wants to sit there. Try to make an appointment if you can, so that you don't have to sit there for a long time. Go there in person. I'm telling you what I know. The next thing I want you to do: make sure you keep your appointments. Something comes up, you can't go. Make sure you keep that appointment. Make that appointment priority. If you have the appointment, you finish the appointment, you go home, you're waiting for your resolution, you're waiting for your to see if they approved you or not, your approval. That's the word I was looking for. You're waiting for your approval. A week goes by, a couple days go by, whatever, and you hear from them and they're like, we need more documentation. Maybe you get a letter in the mail and you're like, oh, is this my approval? You open it up and they're like, we need more information from you. Please mail us in this envelope X, Y, and Z. Don't you mail it. Don't mail that. This is what I want you to do. Whatever it is they need, I want you to gather that information. Fill out that form that they sent. I want you to make copies of it. Set those copies to the side. Put the originals in that envelope, and you take yourself over to that office and put it in that drop box. Don't put that in the mail. Who knows when they're going to get it, if they're going to get it, what stack. Everybody's mailing in stuff to that office. Mail gets lost all the time. No. You're going to take it to that office the next day. You're going to put it, they have a drop box. That's what you're going to do. Okay? And then you're going to take those copies and you're going to put a staple in it and you're going to put a Post-it on it and you're going to say, this is when I mailed this. Because if they try to say they didn't get it or whatever, or you didn't send it, yes, I did. I sent it on this day. Or, oh, do you need another copy? Because I have it right. I did get it. And I document everything. Medicaid should not be denying your child with autism. I'm just saying, it makes me angry. If you have any other questions, Autism Speaks website, I think they have an advocacy email. They are advocating for parents all over the country whenever you get denied services or denied. They're helping people depending on what state you're in, but every state through their Medicaid program helps kids with autism. You should not be getting denied regardless of your income. I don't know why this is happening, but my theory is because nobody's telling you how to apply. So I hope this helps. All right? Like this video for me, and I'll see you in the next video. Talk to you soon.